I'm not good at this. Very clear. One last chance. IT.
Okay.
Okay, why?
I think you're getting there, right? Yeah. Yeah. Ah, man, you found it. You just had one life remaining. Touch a little bit about equity in education, what it means to you.
Maslow's hierarchy, if their
Yeah.
physical needs are not met, you can't teach them. So as educators, we are aware of this. Non-educators are not aware that we are aware of this. So we are generally trying to see how can we bring them to the level of their peers who are coming from a warm house where they get proper sleep, fooding, and clothing and all that stuff. And that is exactly why it's in the core of education. You can be the best educator, use the technology the best way, but if the student is not ready to receive, it's just like basically throwing all the papers to a corner where there's no trash can uh,
Yeah,
to receive them.
that's a great example. Awesome. So, hello everyone. Today we have Marko Alkan with us. Hello, Marko. How have you been?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, Marco, we connected about 1.5 years ago around a very specific topic of global education and awareness. And I think today we are connecting once again on a similar topic about education, but also touching a little bit of your past experiences and the personal journey that you've been on. So, let's actually begin with a little bit about yourself and a little background on how you got into the education sector, and then later on now what you have been up to in life, right? And all the interesting journeys that you have been on so far.
Sure. Well, thanks firstly for inviting me. And it's great that seeing people having interest in education related topics for both of us. We moved our journeys to different directions, times in life, but we are still part of it. So I started my professional journey after college, graduating from a chemical engineering department in two different firms. I tried my own profession first, and then I realized that I had a long-going educational ties where I was back in my own country, volunteering in a nonprofit education establishments and all that. And then I realized that I can actually move on to education here. So exactly in years back from today, in 2009 January, I started as a teacher, where it's a variety of subjects, mostly on STEM area. I moved on to counseling at the same time because of my literally personal interest. And of course, working in charter schools, wearing multiple hats is the norm. So as long as you are interested in and you'd like to invest your time in, you have the opportunity. You can always like step into any direction that you'd like to. And that's exactly what I did. I stepped into counseling department. They needed help. I provided help. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
I learned and I became a counselor. And then, like this is our structure as humans. When we see something is not working the way that we think it should be working, and once we have affirmation, we're like, okay, so we are right. So that's how my educational leadership journey started, because I'm like, I guess it should be this way. And then I stepped into administration area, started to take some responsibilities when I was counselor from academic department. Eventually turned into an assistant principal. I stayed in assistant principalship for in and out 6-7 years, and I
Mhm.
became a principal here when we connected with you in Charlotte, North Carolina, and carried on this for 3 years until last year spring, where I put a period to my professional educational life, at least in the school systems in the United States, and been working as a project manager for one of the professional services firms ever since last spring. It's going to be almost 1 year very soon.
Yeah. Sounds like a long journey. And how, how's the transition been, in terms of the difficulty of the professions? Like, was being an educator, especially a school administrator, more challenging, or is it like right now, as a project manager? Because I think both the jobs involve wearing multiple hats, right? And juggling a bunch of different tasks and people. So, like, what are the similarities, and how is the skill transfer being for you?
Well, what you pointed out is very correct, because I'm in the project management consultants end of the firm. Definitely juggling multiple hats is part of my daily life. And I'm going to go with the cliche, a transition was not the easiest. But after transition piece is actually, compared to a school administrator, not going to lie, it's quite easy. When I say easy, I don't necessarily mean the workload. I'm still working long hours. But one thing that I guess it's difficult to explain to people, because in education, I was facing to people who spent their life mostly in education, and in this one, I'm spending my time with people who spend most of their lives in their own area, because people don't switch fields like we do
Yeah.
sometimes. Like we are very rare. In your late 30s, switching your field is a rare thing. And then, so I can't explain them how, compared to education, the level of stress at this industry is so much lower. And of course, everybody is aware of the financial compensation is significantly different. And so from that perspective, it's definitely easy. I'm still doing the same things. Like when you're a principal, you do budgeting. When you're a project manager, you do budgeting for the project. When you
Yeah.
are a school principal, you literally lead a group of people in your team. And over here, as a project manager, you lead again a group of people in your team to achieve the project. You have a scope in the project management. In the school, you have fiscal year. You make your planning in the summer. Over here, we make our planning before the project. So from those aspects, it's actually so much more similar that people, I guess, grasp until they find, because it was like finding project management was also a journey for me when I was entertaining the idea of stepping out of education at some point in
Mhm.
my life, knowing that I am going to burn out one day, because working in charter schools means you are giving your everything. When I say everything, I mean like everything. When I was working in Fort Worth with a big chunk of the staff, we were reporting to school at 7:30 a.m., like the rest of the city state. And those Fridays, for years, we were teaching until 3 something. And then after school,
Mhm.
for example, science Olympiad practices were starting, and we were in the school until 10:30 p.m. Uh,
10:30 p.m.
yes. So I don't think people are aware what kind of time and effort and energy investment that we are putting into education. And
Yeah.
that is with no payment. That is completely voluntary. Nobody pays you any extra dime for you to investing your time in and taking your students to the next level for the science, math, engineering, and technology perspective. This is for everybody. I was on STEM. There was also a lot of arts and history and geography and a lot of other fields that people are not aware, that almost every field in education, like PE teachers prepare students for the tournaments, and art teachers,
Mhm.
music teachers are preparing for the teachers live in the schools. This is real. And they don't ever get compensated about it, at least in this country. So that's why, like, coming from that perspective, I knew that I was
Yeah.
gonna burn out, slowly getting older. So I was looking at different directions to see, like, if I would step out one day, what would I do as a former engineer, but like not really engineer, 1 year, 2 years of experience does not really count well. So that's in that journey. Before COVID, way before COVID, I figured that if I sail my ship one day to a different direction, that would be most likely this direction, because it is definitely relevant in terms of transferring the skills if you're a principal or an assistant principal. And like, still the comfortable way to live. Yeah, I feel like I'm retired sometimes, like I did my deeds and just like moved on to retirement right now, and working at the desk at home from my own comfort for a
Yeah.
firm. I'm actually feeling like valued. I'm actually feeling like I'm listened. These are not happening in education, and that's why I moved. And then I was listening to my staff to the best of my knowledge, or like showing them that I value them. But that was not something I experienced when I was a teacher. So
Yeah.
I guess
That's that's really insightful for me, like, because I have always been in the education sector from a private point of view, right, like from an enterprising point of view, but not from the schooling point of view, right? And schooling a lot of times is mostly not for profit, at least, like even in my home country, India, right? By law, schooling is non-profit, right? Like you cannot have any kind of profitable intentions there. So I think I can kind of relate with this. And also, like, to your point about, like, I'm not really surprised that you mentioned that you were able to transfer a lot of skills as a school principal into project management, because I think you were doing the opposite as well while you were a principal. I remember during our first meeting, you actually showed me your system of, how you had like a, like, I think it was an Excel sheet or something, like you were using project management skills very deeply to manage your workload at school, right?
yes.
So I'm not surprised with that response, to be honest.
Yeah, when I found project management, as a skill or like agile
Yeah.
as a science is something that I feel like everybody who is part of any kind of management needs to be aware of. Me finding this field years ago and understanding project management and seeing that it's actually applicable in education was definitely a revolution in my mind. I started this when I was an assistant principal and counselor. Like I actually started to use project management tools, the free ones, online, and then obviously coming from engineering, I always have been using Excel a lot, but transferring them, how I can actually follow up. So I guess when we talk with you, I definitely have spreadsheets that are leading to these spreadsheets. And just like in the project, I was doing the exact same thing. I always had this like meeting minutes and key takeaways from those, from all the staff meetings and all the admin meetings. So we can actually share it with the rest of the staff. Weekly, whatever we do with the staff was always shared with the staff. And when we take the notes about what we're going to talk. So this is almost the exact same thing with project management. And I intentionally incorporated them into my life because I thought that that would bring a system. I remember being a teacher, trying to find out if the staff meeting is going to happen. If that happens, what are we going to talk about? If the principal is going to come and drop a bomb that day, and then all the teachers are going to lose their morale. Like, we didn't know what was going on. I didn't want my staff to go through the same thing. I
Yeah.
wanted to have some type of transparency where we can all incorporate our items and everybody can talk about everything. So, because just like you mentioned in our podcast today, we are talking about social emotional needs of the students, but at the same time, social emotional needs of the staff is very important. If the staff
Yeah.
is not there, how can you expect them to meet with these students' social emotional needs? So,
Yeah.
therefore, my effort was mostly on understanding my staff, living with my staff, being there at all times, and making a transparent environment for them so we all can feel comfortable about talking about whatever we want to talk about. So that was part of it. That's why I brought project management into education.
I think one of the themes that we are going to be touching, though normally we do talk about student mental health, but I think this segment we can definitely talk a lot more about the mental health of educators, especially teachers, right? And as a school administrator, I think all the different insights that you have regarding that. And, since we are on that topic of that segment, let me just quickly share my screen and we'll start with the Wheel of Fun tune, right? Where the wheel is going to decide what game we're going to be playing today over this podcast. We'll choose 3 segments out of 6 or 7 segments that we have. Whatever the wheel decides, we'll do, right? And then, yeah, and again, the theme around this would be student mental health,
Okay.
educators' mental health, and equity in education, right? All right, I'm just going to be sharing my screen. I'm going to spin this wheel,
Okay.
right? All right. Would you rather? So, have you played this game before?
Yes, in a smaller sense, I guess, with the students and friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm just going to be asking you a bunch of questions, right? And just for our audience to know about this game, we'll choose 3 questions. Okay. The first one is going to be pretty easy. All right. And the next two, well, I'll try to make it a little bit more difficult, right?
Okay.
So, first one, would you rather be a socially isolated but hyper genius individual, or would you be a socially popular but a somewhat rather average intelligent person?
Oh, that's a difficult one. That's not
Yeah.
easy. I don't know. So social isolation is something that we all have experienced in COVID. So that question is actually gonna have a different answer from people at this point because we know what social isolated means, and that is difficult. We all were isolated at some point in
Mhm.
2020, spring, summer, fall, following 21. I hate being social isolated. I'm an extrovert mostly,
This
and
is even more difficult for you, I guess,
it
because
is
you're also
like
really smart. So
and I don't know, intelligence is something I feel like can be developed. So as I mean, none of them is gonna sound good. Therefore, I'm still gonna go with the second one because if I'm average but socially involved, I feel like I can actually take my intelligence further. Could be wrong.
yeah, I guess, yeah, I think that makes sense. Like being socially isolated can have different impacts on you. And like my father used to say this all the time, that what matters at the end of the day is being happy. So
Of course.
as long as being social makes you happy, I guess I probably would have chosen the first one, being an introvert, honestly. Like I would like I sometimes I get really awkward when I'm, surrounded by, a lot of people. So
Understandable. I mean, there's literally no right answer. And the
exactly.
reality is, our life is generally changed by mostly the people who are socially isolated and geniuses. And I definitely give it. But looking at the issues from post-COVID traumas that we are going through, I'm going to
Yep.
choose socially being involved. And then I'll just take the intelligence part. I just take care of it.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the next one. Would you rather have a perfect work-life balance or be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company?
Okay. Hmm. Well, I'm going to go with the second one again. The reason is
Okay.
I don't think I have ever been after a perfect life work balance. I
Hmm.
didn't have work-life balance. Not gonna lie, I have a better work-life balance right now because at least I'm able to tell my boss that 5 p.m. I gotta go get my vaccine, and he's like, good to go. In the school, that's not the case. When if a parent shows up, if something else going on, like you don't get your vaccine until you actually have a chance to leave. So I'm not being after work-life balance. I guess being a CEO of a company would give me a much better chance to improve other people's lives, which
Yeah.
that's what I've been after for as long as I remember. So leading a school was a mini, I guess, version of it. And working in the school, I was able to better retention rates than before me, at least. So therefore, I feel like I could touch to more people's lives if I was actually running a bigger group of people.
And makes sense, like your leadership intuition is sort of coming out right now, I guess, right? I mean, I probably would have chosen the same answer.
Yeah.
Not probably, I would definitely choose the same answer.
Yeah, I mean, leadership definitely is, as you mentioned, everybody knows this cliche, right? Like, be a leader, don't be a manager, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time,
Yeah.
nobody teaches properly. On that perspective, I was really lucky in my higher education when I was receiving my master's degree from T. Tyler. That was definitely a life-changing experience for me. I did not know that I was going to have such a different approach to everything management wise. After that, I would definitely have gotten into that program so much earlier. And that over there, they starting from the first semester, they teach you how to be a leader and qualities of a leader and qualities of a manager and where you are going to balance, how you are going to balance. And you need to always understand that human is in the center of everything. So that's definitely, you're right. I guess we both have that approach, which
Yeah.
through this type of questions.
All right. Last one, and I think this might be a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
Would you rather be the most popular teacher in your school, or would you rather be the one with the highest amount of impact, but, you know, being hated by your students for some reason?
Well, I was well, I guess I've been both in different levels, but I guess I generally picked being the second one because
Okay.
I understand that being hated is not the easy way to take. And even when you watch the media, uh, where you are going to see students and school life is a part of it, you always see a character that is hated, but at the end being appreciated because that is
Yeah.
reality. If I'm dealing with kids, the reason we call them kids, the reason we call them minors is because they are growing up and their thinking skills or I don't know experience, the life experience that they have is not same with the adults. That's it. They're not dumb. They are perfectly capable of thinking the exact same things that we can think. So
Yeah.
on that one, you need to rely on to your experience and understand that once they reach actually the correct experience level, they are going to understand what you are trying to achieve. So if I'm trying to make a major change in their life and if it's going to bother them as kids, they are going to hate me. And that's okay. Because I did have kids that did hate me. And today we are still in touch with them. So I'll go with the second one. Like,
Makes sense. Makes
yes.
sense. All right, let's go to the Wheel of Fortune again,
Okay.
and let's see what's next for us. Hangman. Okay, this is actually one of my favorites.
Okay.
Share my screen again. 1 second.
You have multiple screens.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out where that screen is. 1 second.
That's fine. I do the same thing. It's again part of our lives. If you are dealing with something like you deal and I deal, we always have multiple screens because you need to be looking at one thing while you're doing the second thing.
Yep, yep. I had it open, but I think there was some issue with. All right, so let's try the first one. You've played this game, right?
Of course.
Yeah. All right, which letter do you want to go first?
Which letter? M.
M. Well, you just lost your head.
Oh, that was not lucky. Okay, A.
A.
A. And my
Hmm.
body's E.
E. I thought you were gonna go with R. I
Oh,
thought you were gonna go with the name.
R
Right.
is, oh yeah, yeah, I didn't realize. M definitely was because of Marco. At the same time, it's very common, certain letters are like S. Let's try S.
S.
Hmm.
Okay.
Not common letters.
See, I,
Okay.
I think because it's a small word, it might be a little bit more difficult. But
R.
R.
I'm not good at this.
No chances remaining.
Very clear. K.
K.
I'm choosing the letters that are the most common, but not going there.
Maybe
One
maybe
last,
another ball.
one last chance. I.
I. Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Oh, okay.
You'll have
Round one.
one life.
Hmm. T.
T. Okay. Okay.
Okay. Y.
Why? I think you're getting there, right?
Q.
Yep. Yeah. Ah, man, you found it.
U.
You equity.
Well,
Awesome.
I
That
have
that was
one minute left.
wow. Okay. Okay. That was very impressive. You just had one life remaining. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just.
So the reason why we chose this word
Mhm.
is because we want to touch a little bit about equity in education and what it means to you.
Yeah.
So let's actually begin with that, right? Like, what does equity mean to you in general?
This is one topic that we really enjoy to talk about in education. There's a visual. I don't know. I feel like you have seen it. They put like one really tall person and a
Yeah.
mid-height person and a short person, and then they put a fence in front of them while they're trying to watch a game, and then they put equality, and then they give like a
Yep.
stool to all three of them, where short people still can see, medium height person is still trying to see, while tall person is still seeing comfortably, where they say equity. And they
Yep.
bring three different heights of stools, give the lowest one to the tallest person, mediocre one to the mid-height person, and then the tallest one to the shortest person, where they actually are coming to the same level and can see the game. So that's equity. That is I love that visual because nothing ever expressed the understanding of equity better than that visually to me. And I guess I'm a little visual, I gotta see
Mhm.
something, and that just sticks with me much better. So equity is that providing the correct type of help to the correct group of people, or correct group in general, not even only people. So equity is the core of, I guess, understanding in the newer ages that we are understanding. That's why there's, like positive discrimination has become a word. You positively divide some groups and then provide them an extra help in classroom, in the school, in education, in life, to bring everybody to the same level. In this understanding, of course, I have access to multiple countries and cultures because of I was born in a different place, mom's from a different place, dad's from a different place, I'm living in a different place. However, I still know this country most because I spent the last decade and a half over here. And I know that United States is trying and doing a pretty good job in trying to bring people in the same level. Uh, Definitely there's a vision here to bring people together, where as opposed to this, I look at the countries that I have touched in Europe, like Turkey, Greece,
Mhm.
Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Macedonia, the countries that I know closer, or actually Central European countries like Germany, I don't know, Belgium, Netherlands, even England, or like Denmark. There are different things in the society that people are trying different approaches. Since none of them actually reached the goal, we can't say any one of them is correct or wrong yet, but we are following a different system here in this country as opposed to Central Europe, as opposed to Eastern Europe or Middle East, where the concern as you go from west to east gets like less and less. People are less concerned about equity. Over here, people are more concerned about equity.
Yeah.
And in education, in our own topic, equity is Equity goes through first understanding of who are you addressing to, like who is your student, which background do they come from, where do they live in the city, what do their families do. Divorce rates are very high in this country, so you need to understand, do they have one parent or two parents. You need to understand if their parents are actually college graduate or not. We call them first generation college graduates, which changes their entire college application process. As my expertise on more like 9 through 12 on high school, did work with 6 through 8 as well, but 9 through 12. So when I look at education, I generally, first things pop up in my mind is high school related. So all these are important. What kind of income do they have? What kind of jobs do they have? What is their connection with their family? And of course, so socioeconomical level, race, ethnicity, the language that they speak, all that are part of understanding student. After you shape who you are addressing to, then you need to understand how can you bring that student to the same level of the other students that you have in your hand. So entitlement, right? Everybody is entitled to different things. Everybody comes from different levels of the society. And as educator, what at least you're expecting from yourself is to treat them with equity, not equally, but with equity. If a child is exactly, like if a child is coming from a home where they did not get their needs met, it's real. They come to school with no sleep. It's come to school hungry. It's come to school with no proper clothing. They do show up without their main needs met. Again, another cliche for at least between educators, Maslow's hierarchy. If their physical needs are not met, you can't teach them. So as educators, we are aware of this. Non-educators are not aware that we are aware of this. So we are generally trying to see how can we bring them to the correct level so they can actually come to the level of their peers who are coming from a warm house where they get proper sleep and proper fooding and proper clothing and all that stuff. And that is exactly why it's in the core of education. Without equity, you don't get to teach. You can be the best educator. You can know your topic best, and you can get at the whiteboard or blackboard, whichever you use, and lecture the best way, use the technology the best way. But if the student is not ready to receive, it's just like basically throwing all the papers to a corner where there's no trash can uh,
Yeah,
to receive them.
that's a great example, actually. Yeah.
I just came up with it. So yeah, I guess it's about delivering. So how you deliver, what you deliver, and what's your intention. And this is something that educators do learn if they are going through the formation of education, if they are going through some type of license certification level, they do learn about this. And in the schools, we try to, as the educational administrators, ensure that we try to reflect ourselves to the teachers. The struggle is the teachers know this, teachers understand this, how they are going to apply it kind of again relies onto the school administration, because you can't expect a biology teacher to provide breakfast to a student who came to the classroom hungry. That falls onto the administration. We need to make some type of arrangement. Maybe if we know that there's a child showing up to a classroom every day hungry, maybe we need to provide some snacks to that classroom. So we can
Yeah.
definitely again unzip this and then talk about so many different pieces, but I'm just going to respond to this question and then turn back to you.
Got it. No, I think that was a really, I think, detailed answer to this, and so many points. Because when we say equality or when we say equity, a lot of times we ignore some of the needs that different people can have. Like we try to focus on singular points rather than focusing on the multiple points that you actually just mentioned. Like the culture is important, the state of mind is important, the background of a student is, all of those things are important. And equity just doesn't mean that you're just giving a boost to someone. Like a lot of people think that if they're giving accommodations on a test to a student, for example, and then they're doing enough. But that's not really enough, right? Maybe you're helping them out with something, but at the end of the day, what's really important is that they're getting the level of help or accommodations that they require from whoever the authority is, so that they can reach the same level as some of the other more privileged, for the lack of a better word, students, and eventually have a level playing field for everyone. Makes perfect sense. By the way, just just to segue into that, what do you think is the role of technology in this? Because like today, the way technology is expanding, and like right now, I'm super excited about artificial intelligence and its role in everything that we're going to be doing. I'm just wondering, what you think from, let's say, from the management point of view, from the educator's point of view, or from a student's point of view, like what role is education going to play in?
Well, so there are, I guess, two sub questions in that question. One is the technology and one AI specifically. I'm going to briefly touch the technology piece. Technology has been getting involved in education since 1990s, step by step. First bringing the computers to the school, then bringing the computers to the classroom, then bringing the internet to the school, then bringing the internet to the classroom. Where in the school I worked over here, before COVID, we applied to a fund, a grant in the state with my two other admin friends, the principal of the elementary side, excuse me, the assistant principal of the elementary side, and myself. We sat and wrote a grant where the state of North Carolina was going to provide us funding to give a Chromebook to all the students. So this was before
Mm,
COVID. It was our luck. We provided that to the students. And then when COVID started, we did have Chromebooks in the school to give the students so we can actually carry on from home. So my specific school did not really got disconnected like most of our schools surrounding us over here, but that was of course our concern about delivering the highest technology possible to the students. But at the same time, partially I can't deny it was luck. So if we would write this grant next year, or if we would say that we'll just do it later, most likely we wouldn't have computers, and then our students' education also got divided like most of the students in the country. So technology definitely is an undeniable part. The teachers are, some teachers love technology and they incorporate it in their classroom. Some teachers, I'm not gonna say they don't love. I guess it's also generational, for a lot of people coming from my generation and the generation before me, or generations before me,
yeah.
are struggling a bit more. This is again, it's a blanket statement, doesn't obviously cover everybody, but they are struggling a little more. Even at times they see technology as their competition in the classroom, where yeah, it is a tool, but at the same time, utilizing the tool is also, it just requires adequate support for the teachers. So if you provide as administrator the support to these teachers, they're going to love and they're going to use it. Mandating is not the way, which is a common mistake in education we see frequently. State comes or administration comes or the central administration or central office or the district office, some come and then they're like, well, you guys are going to be using the Chromebooks or like computers in your classroom. You're expected to deliver technology. It's part of your evaluation right now. This is not the way to go. How would these people feel if we would do the same thing to the students? Right? Like, so, but they do the same thing to the teachers. They're like, well, we're going to evaluate your educational technology skills. No, you are not. Because teachers are going to incorporate it the way that they feel like it should be. What you can do best is you can actually teach the leadership team to support the teachers how to incorporate it in the classroom and not evaluate teachers from their knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's all about support instead of, I don't know, taking a little stick in your hand, say, hey, use educational technology. AI is the another part. So honestly, we recently started to discuss this with my friends in education. Some of them are still in education from one end or another, or some of them stepped out like myself. Last week, we were discussing it with a friend, trying to understand how will AI going to affect, how will AI be affecting the homeschooling, because that's the thing in the United States. Some families choose to homeschool their kids, and their ability of teaching those topics is obviously discussable. But
Yeah.
AI changes things, so AI can actually teach kids a bunch of stuff. So just like,
Thing, right? This
yeah,
just
so it's funny, just like how technology changed and replaced some of the human power in the past century, step by step. Now AI is going to change things. Obviously, AI do not have feelings. They don't have emotions. They don't have that type of components in them. So how much are they going to meet with the needs of the students? From academic point, they definitely can. From human standpoint, they definitely can't. So how we're going to find a balance, how we're going to incorporate AI, it's always going to be a thing. But I guess one thing for that's going to help us to understand this topic better is we were utilizing some type of educational portal when I was over here because so I got involved with online education portals as soon as they emerged, actually. 2013 is the first time that I got in touch. I don't want to name the companies because there are
Mm-hmm.
like a bunch of them out there. And as I stepped out, I don't even know all of them anymore. But back in that time, there was Odyssey, Adventum, like a bunch of them. So I started to get in touch with them because working in a charter school that was providing dual credit to the students, that was providing a bunch of things to the students, we wanted to provide a support to the students who failed certain classes to bring them up to speed because they get older, they get more concerned, and now it's time to provide support. And B, give a choice to the diverse group of students to meet with their needs from the elective standpoint. Because in the school, you can only hire so many teachers in a charter school, especially because you get paid per student. So you can only hire so many teachers to provide the electives. And in a mediocre size of a charter school, you get to provide the foreign language and music and art basics. If you are lucky, drama. But then if you have a student that is coming to you and saying that, hey, my interest actually lies into STEM. Can you give me some STEM courses? I might not be able to. I could provide you maybe biomedical, but I can't really provide you engineering. So in that case, I found this online solutions around a decade ago and start to provide students through those online courses,
Yeah.
psychology, sociology, engineering, French, the things that we cannot offer in the school. So I was taking students in my counseling lab, bunch of them. I was lucky. My administration was in that school amazing. My principal gave me a full-size classroom with bunch of second-hand computers that other schools did not want to use. So I took them. I completely formatted them myself, set them up, cabled them to the internet, and created like a online course lab in my counseling room where students were coming and taking online courses in their available times to support their elective needs. That's going to give them a better chance to get admitted to the correct side of the college. So this was a thing that I learned from that time, and I carried it on as I continue my journey in educational leadership to see how can I bring this as a support to the teacher. When I was principal over here, I gave access to the teachers, a teacher access, students to the student access. So when teachers were teaching in the classroom, I had an amazing math teacher over here. She was one of the best I have ever run into in my career, and I'm a math teacher, so she was really amazing. She was teaching in the classroom. When she was teaching, she was looking at the online course beforehand and teaching adjacently, and then assigning them to the students when they go home. Instead of doing a homework, she was expecting students to basically reteach themselves one more time
Yeah.
because she observed that this was helping students. So these are all the technological components where AI can actually take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So with the AI, so with the courses, we give a set schedule. Like there's a set menu you just provide to the student, and you expect student to go through it and learn it. With the AI, you can put a responsibility on AI to ensure that the student actually learned it, and then you can put a responsibility on AI and see if they can actually target to the gaps of the students. So we can go like really deep into pedagogy over here and see how AI actually can meet with their emotional needs while they are bringing their behavioral issues, while they are giving the academic component. So this can go in extreme levels in the human development, but I guess we are all prompt to see it very soon.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, I'm excited that, but very well put. I think, like you mentioned, right, technology in general is really just meant to enhance the workload, right, and really help out humans, like be a helping hand. AI can be sort of the next step where it's not just a helping hand anymore, and it's giving a lot more insights, not just to the students but also to the educators, right?
Yeah.
Right, so we're running out of time real quick. So we'll have one last round called rapid fire. I think the name is obvious, right? So I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions and you'll have a few seconds to answer those questions, all right?
Okay, I'll try my best.
And it should really help our audience to learn a bit more about you as well, personally. So let's begin. How many places have you lived so far?
Sorry,
How
how
many
many?
places have you lived so far?
I guess 9 cities
Nine
and
cities.
countries. Yeah,
9 cities and 9 countries.
no, 3 countries.
3 countries.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy. The most impactful book that you've read.
Most impactful book that I read. That's such a difficult question.
Looks like you've read a lot of books.
I mean, yeah, I'm So as a person who is suffering from attention deficit disorder, I'm reading like 9 books at the same time right now. So I'm also trying to adjust, like some of them are my personal interests, some of them are,
Well, if you were to choose one book.
it's very difficult. Like right now I'm reading This Is Where You Belong. It's a book that one of my closest people gave me as a gift. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna go with that because it's very difficult to put everything in perspective from the books perspective for the books. But yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah, yeah. This is where you belong. Okay. All right. Your favorite pastime or hobby?
My favorite hobby is hiking, hands down.
Hiking. Nice.
Hiking, yeah.
And North Carolina, right? It's
Yes.
a lot of
Yeah,
good places.
Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte is a heaven in that understanding. You're in the middle of a bunch of places that you can hike, and I go with my friends and socialize. I go with my own dog and myself. So it's like put my thoughts together. It's so reachable, accessible, amazing. I don't know. It just feels amazing.
There's a lot of, I think, rock climbing there as well, right? Like a culture of rock climbing, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, there is. I have never been part of, but the place that I go most in Charlotte is Crowdus Mountain over here. It's like 45 minutes from where I live, exactly. And there's a whole rock climbing phase of it where there are like 6 paths that we generally like hike from different lengths and different steepness. We always come to the same point, and then when you come there, it's like a cliff. And then
Mm.
from the top of the rock, you see that there are like hooks and everything that is going completely down, and people are climbing. I've seen once only people are actually climbing up there, and that just blows my mind. I love to watch, but I don't think I can be part of extreme sports too much. I'm just not cut for
Yeah, I think we share that feeling.
that.
All right. One thing you would expect from all students.
One thing I would expect from all students: keep an open mind.
Sorry,
People have
what?
keep an open mind. People always have something to give you, like regardless of how much you like or hate them, how much you think that they're beneficial or not. Everybody has always something to give another person.
Makes sense. And one thing that you would expect from all educators.
All educators tolerate. Yeah, tolerate the admins, tolerate the parents, tolerate the students. I guess that's the biggest quality for me. Based on my own experience, I think tolerance is the piece that is most expected from the teachers, because not always everything is working for the best of them, but you sometimes just tolerate and power through and come to a better point to be able to make a difference. And like 99% of the educators are in education to make a difference. We believe in making a difference by touching people's lives, not making a difference in any other way. This is our common understanding. That's what brings educators together. We think that we can touch students' lives and make it better. Hence, we moved into education. So I guess tolerance is one of the basic needs of all the educators.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna remember that as an educator myself. So yeah, well, thank you so much, Marco, for joining us on Mind Matters today. And any last words for our audience before we end this podcast?
Well, I'm very happy that you decided to pursue this and hold this podcast. And I'm very honored that you considered me as one of your guests and invited me. I'm sure this journey is going to carry on for both of us, and we are going to keep connecting rest
For
of the time.
sure.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what else to come over here, and I'll be listening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna end the recording now.
Okay, thank you.